First of all, and Kathy just gave you an indication on this, I just want you to know that I represent 11 counties in upstate New York, including Rensselaer, Columbia, Dutchess on the east side of the river, and I represent 8 on the west side, including Sullivan, Ulster, Greene, Schoharie, Montgomery, Otsego, Delaware, and parts of Broome. And what I want you to know is you're not alone. Of those 11 counties that I represent, all of them have either passed a resolution opposing or have scheduled to have such a resolution voted on. So I want you to understand that as you take time out of your evening to come here tonight, that there are citizens all over upstate New York that are outraged about what happened. And let me say this, that the way I think we need to go forward, there's sort of 2 tracks that we're moving on. The first track is legal, okay? Because, you know, my read of the Supreme Court cases, Heller, 2008, that was the District of Columbia, and McDonald, 2010, this was a case that happened in Chicago in the state of Illinois. What the Supreme Court held in those 2 cases is that you could regulate, but you could not ban. And I think that based on those decisions, I think the gun ban here in New York State is going to be thrown out unconstitutional. And I also think that there are other provisions in this so-called SAFE Act that are going to be found unconstitutional. And I would point to the section on mental health. There's no due process there, that you don't even get a hearing. So on that avenue, on the legal avenue, I will have an opportunity, should this elevate to the Supreme Court, to send official correspondence supporting the people in that law case. And I do expect that that will occur. The second thing is political. And let me say this, that you know, what you are doing expressing yourself and what you're doing to influence your legislators at the state, at the federal, and at the county level is very important, because we need to signal, we need to talk about how important this is to us. But I want to say this, I think this is really important, okay? Because we live in a republic, right? That's right, we live in a republic, a dictator democracy. And given our commitment to the Constitution and a commitment to this way of life, we have to influence. We have to win to be able to preserve our agenda. Now, we still have a Constitution that protects our Bill of Rights, but this is where I'm going. Us meeting here tonight, is this about the Second Amendment? Well, heck yeah, it's about the Second Amendment. There's no question on that. But I want you to know that in ways that are profound, this is bigger than that. This is bigger than that. If you've got family and friends that don't own a gun, and they think that this is not their fight, I would ask you to go out and convince them otherwise. This has everything to do with the First Amendment, our ability to express ourselves. It has to do with the Fourth Amendment, and the Fifth, and the Sixth, the entire Bill of Rights. And I will tell you that, just as I'm charging you tonight to go out and to convince your family and friends, I'm leading the charge on this. I'm responsible for leading, and I will tell you that I believe I have the credibility, based on my voting record, the highest scoring legislator in New York on the Freedom Index. I'm in a position of strength now to bring people together to support this, even if they don't own a gun. Because, ladies and gentlemen, in the Congress, when I voted against the Patriot Act, I was one of 27 to do that. And when I came home and explained it, the libertarian right and the liberal left supported my decision. Because you know what? That bill, that reauthorization of that bill, I believe, facially, was unconstitutional because of the stipulations there on wiretaps. The Constitution says in the Fourth Amendment that you need specificity in terms of person, place, and thing. And that act says that's fine if you have it, but if you don't, a general description will work. And that doesn't work. And then when they brought forward the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, the FISA reauthorization, once again, I went through this thing with fine-tooth comb. And once again, there were issues with the Fourth Amendment, specifically, explicitly about warrants. On the legal front, as Assemblyman Lopez mentioned, there is severability, okay? And that's been around really since the very beginning. And it has to do with when you bring forward and enact a law, recognizing that we have genuinely, for the first time, the separation of powers and a truly independent judiciary, that if a particular clause is found unconstitutional, the rest stands. So I've already given you earlier that I believe that the gun ban is going to be found unconstitutional based on the precedent of McDonald. Why do I say that? Because, you know, McDonald was in Chicago. I mean, this is one of our major metropolitan areas, and they were banning the pistol, the handgun. And McDonald was in a neighborhood where he was getting overrun by drug dealers and gangs, and so they organized essentially what would be a neighborhood watch. And they said, we are going to stand for ourselves here if we can't get any help from anybody on the outside. And they were challenged. They said, you know, you're carrying. Yes, we're carrying. Because we're going to defend. We're going to defend ourselves. We're going to defend our families. We're going to defend our neighborhood. And they were challenged on that legally. They challenged with a lawsuit. And it went all the way to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court extended the decision of Heller, which was a landmark case only 2 years earlier for the District of Columbia. And the judges stated, I think it was a 5-4 decision, but and then there's been no changes in the judges since 10, that they stated that Chicago, like any other metropolitan area and any other state, could regulate, but they couldn't ban those handguns. And so McDonald won his case. And that on top of Heller, really reinforced the fact that the Second Amendment right is for all of us. It's not something that comes from the state. It's something that comes to all of us in this country. And so I believe that aspect of the New York SAFE Act, so-called SAFE Act, is going to be found unconstitutional. And I also believe that the mental health provisions, because of the fact that we don't get our due process in there isn't any way to challenge what somebody has made a claim. I think that will be found unconstitutional, and then beyond there, on the magazines, we'll have to see on how well that. I'm not aware of the case law to be able to speak in any kind of definitive term on there. But this will be challenged. Like I said, we're on two axes right now. You know, there is the legal axis, and then there's the political axis, and we must march forward.